Hello, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 11 of the Oxford Wine and Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Tom Brady, and today we have a very cool episode indeed, if I do say so myself. My guest is Lisa Tosolini, third generation owner of the brand Beppe Tosolini, and she joined us here on the podcast to discuss all things grappa. Something I wasn't expecting, which was super cool, was that Lisa tuned in directly from the distillery. So we got to see firsthand all of the aspects that she was describing. This was a great conversation, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, let's have ourselves a podcast. Lisa Tosolini, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'd first like to ask, where are you joining us from today?
Hi, Tom. Nice to meet you. We are now in Italy, specifically in Friuli. We are a bunch of kilometers from Venice, in the heart of Friuli, Venezia Giulia. And we are at the distillery, Beppe Tosolini Distillery, just in the heart of it.
And when did distillation start for you in 2024? How's it going so far?
The distillation started a couple of weeks ago. This summer was very, very hot. So harvest started much earlier than last year. So as a beginning, we are harvesting the white grapes. And after we will harvest the red grapes. So it started just a couple of weeks ago. Just you need the fermentation. And then last week we started distillation. You will see on my back the stills that are working.
I'm very excited to talk about these stills in a little while. I think this is the first time that I've certainly recorded a podcast where we can actually see a column still in the background. For anyone who's listening and not watching the video right now, Lisa's joining us literally from the distillery. So we've got stills working in the background. It's very exciting. So, I think we better start at the beginning, right? Beppe Tosolini is a brand we see across several different spirit categories here at the Oxford Wine Company. So, in as brief a way as possible, I know it's probably a long story, but how would you describe what your company Beppe Tosolini does?
Well, Beppe Tosolini is a family-owned distillery. I am the third generation, and my grandfather started the distillery in 1943. So we have been crafting spirits since then. And we specialize in producing high-quality grappas, as well as other traditional distillates and spirits and liquors from the Italian tradition, like the Amaro, the Amaretto, Limoncello, to say some liquors that probably the world knows from the Italian tradition. And many more. We are kind of specialists in the production of spirits and liquors. And our aim is to produce following the tradition of the founder, only with fresh ingredients. That's why we are only distilling during the harvest. So this is the time that we distill, and this is the only time of the year we distill. We will finish the distillation in the middle of November, end of October, depending on the quantities we are distilling and depending on the weather. But that's it. So we are not distilling all year long. And this means freshness, and this means high quality. And, all our spirits are produced using our own stills, the family stills, because the stills that we are using are the same as the ones that the founder built in 1943 and the years after, of course.
Wow, that's fascinating. I do love an old still. I love stills with history. Does everything you produce use grapes as its raw material, or are you using a bunch of different raw materials?
The grappa, which is our flagship spirit, is made from the pomace and the skins after the leftover from the winemaking process, and is the base of all our spirits.
Fantastic.
Whether you have a distillate or a liquor that undergo a maceration or a fermentation, adding the fruit or the botanicals to the grape spirit, we always use our own alcohol.
And are there any key grapes that you work with specifically?
Well, we use local grapes mainly. That's why distilleries are based near the vineyards near the wineries, because what we need is to collect the grapes as fresh as possible. So we use local grapes for the majority. We have single varieties like the Moscato, the Prosecco, Merlot, Pinot Grigio, and many others that are, some of them are local, like the Piccolit and the Fragolino. Some of them are grown in different regions of Italy. But we use the grapes from our region. Specifically, it's called the Grappa Friulana. It's now an IG denomination, which means that you only use the grapes from your region, which is very, very important.
Friuli Venezia Giulia, it's one of these fascinating regions where every time I dive into it, it seems like there's so much more to discover. It's not just the wines being produced, but the whole culture of this corner of Italy was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. It's amazing. Hemingway, who was here a couple of times during his life, said that Friuli Venezia Giulia is a compendium of nature. You're at the sea and you can watch the mountains. You're at the mountains and you can watch the sea. In the middle, we have grapes. We have all nature, and it's really incredible.
Today, if possible, I would like to focus on Grappa. And you've already said that Grappa is coming from the pomace of the grape skins, but could you describe in a little bit more detail the process of producing Grappa? And wow, we've got some grapes already.
That's the easiest way to explain how Grappa is made. I will try. So what we need is the bunch of grapes. With a bunch of grapes, generally you produce the wine. So I take one. This is a small grape. When you harvest and you press the grapes, what you get is the juice. Then we become wine. What we need is this. This is the leftover. This is what we need and what we distill to make grappa. So it's very, very easy. This skin has a sugar inside, given by pulp of the fruit, and the sugar will be fermented, and the fermentation will transform the sugar into alcohol. Once the fermentation started, then it's ready to be distilled, and it's distilled in the stills that I have on my back. Easy.
But there's something special about Grappa stills, right? It's not typical like, I don't know, I spend a lot of time talking about Scotch whiskey and I spend a lot of time talking about rum. And very often we have either a pot still in the case of Scotch whiskey, or often with rum you see a column still as well. It's a different type of still for Grappa, right?
Yes. Can I show you?
Of course.
I hope the line will hold on. Okay. So you come with me. These are the typical stills used for the distillation of Grappa. Okay, this is exhausted, but you will see. This is the vinaccia when it's exhausted now.
Yeah.
What happens? The vinaccia arrives, ferments, and once it is fermented, we will put it inside these pot stills. The pot stills that you can see here are closed, and the steam comes from the bottom and goes through the skins that I showed you before. The steam comes out from these tubes, this pipe, and goes all the way down to the bottom of the column there. I know it's hard. Use your imagination. and then there, we start the distillation. So the distillation is that we put steam again, and we heat the liquid. The liquid that begins from here at 12, 13% alcohol. In the bottom of the column, you will find it there at 24. And then when you rise the column, it will go to 75, 78.
So let me see if I've got that right. So
column
first of all, we're putting the fermented pomace into these really interesting pots. They don't look like a typical bulb pot. The fermented pomace is packed in really tight, and steam is fired through.
packed
this
tight, and the
allows
steam goes through.
and then this pushes flavor compounds through into the second still, which is the column. And then the column distillation is more of like a typical column distillation.
Exactly. And that it's where we separate the head, the heart, and the tail. You only take the heart of the distillation, and only the heart of the distillation will become the final grappa.
And so I actually have a bottle with me right now, which I think it might be a perfect opportunity to taste a little bit. We don't have to tell anyone what time of the morning it is.
No?
But normally when we're tasting a grappa, I have here the Moscato from Tosolini. But what are the typical flavor components that we would expect when tasting a grappa?
Well, depends on the variety of the grapes, and for sure the Moscato will give a more floral and fruity aroma, and it's a more smooth and elegant grappa. The variety of the grappa is very important to give different flavors, and that's why grappa is one of the most complex distillate. You can really find so many different varieties of grappa depending on the variety of the grape you use, the mix that you make, which is your own recipe because you decide which grapes, which varieties, and the amount of each one to create your own flavor. So I believe that really grappa is a very complex and very interesting spirit.
This is wonderful. I mean, I do drink a lot of Moscato wine. I must say that I definitely have a guilty pleasure in Moscato d'Asti, which is a sparkling sweet wine. When I'm nosing this, you get a sense of the grape itself, that florality. There's some lovely apricot notes coming out of this one as well. But one thing I find which is really, really interesting, and this I would say personally when I've tasted different grappas from different grapes, you get much more than just the flavor that's coming from the juice. You get a sense of the stems, the pips, the skins. It's really interesting, and I think that's something something to be celebrated in grappa because it really is fascinating. It's a product where you can really taste where it comes from, and that's quite special to me.
The grappa is rich and aromatic, and it really elevates the palate when we talk about fine and high quality distillate. High quality grappa can really enhance your palate. It's a matter of education. As I always say, we're not drinking, we're learning. So as much as you get inside the world of grappa, you discover that different aromas and different flavors comes from different varieties. Like we have here, the ones you taste, the Moscato, but then you can have from red grapes, the Merlot, or we can also find the barrique one. So a small aging in barrels, in a small barrique, gives also something different to the final distillate. No, aging is no need because grappa is born young, so white, clear distillate. But during the years, probably the different palates and the evolution of grappa itself brings the need of different flavors, a more complex flavor, especially the international palates, where they are very used to dark brown aged spirits. Of course, the aging process, minimum stay of 12 months in small barrique, will uplift the richness, and the grappa will have distinctive aromas of wood and head complexity to the distillate.
So really what you're saying is there's a lot more diversity than perhaps what most people think. What, in your opinion, is the biggest misconception when it comes to grappa?
I believe that the biggest misconception is that grappa is harsh, is too strong. In the past, maybe it was like that. The grappa that you started to find at the beginning of last century were made using probably not really good leftovers. So the leftovers were probably old, has different flavors. But today Grappa can be incredibly smooth, and the techniques that are used today so different. The way we treat the ingredients, the raw material, the skins is so different, and you can really smell the freshness of the product, and and you can really understand. Especially if you have the possibility of tasting different grappas and to taste industrial grappas versus artisanal grappas, you will understand why grappa can really be good.
Particularly in England, I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but there is this perception of you go to an Italian restaurant and you finish the meal and the guy brings out a bottle of grappa and pours everyone a little glass, and everyone kind of looks at each other and goes, do we really have to drink this?
Yeah.
It's usually not too great. And, this can be quite detrimental, and I think the same can be said for a lot of spirits in this matter. But actually, when you kind of break it down and, as you said, go into the realms of artisanal producers, when you're tasting something that's been made with passion, and when it's something that's been made small batch as well, this is something that's quite special. I mean, I've just tasted it. There's no harshness at all.
It's floral, it's smooth, it's elegant.
Exactly.
It's not only digestive, no? It can be really a spirit by itself that you can enjoy all day, not only as the traditions are telling us after the meals to help our digestion. That probably was the old style idea of grappa. The grappa today has really changed a lot, and more and more people start to drink better and ask for high quality grappas.
Would you say that it could be paired quite well with different foods?
Well, like the distillate, especially if we talk about, for example, the aged ones, the Reserva, the special limited editions, special agings that can be paired with different dark chocolates, with desserts, with cheeses. It's really incredible how, because in the grappa you remember the taste of the wine, no, a little bit, because it's made from the grapes. So it goes very well with all these end of the meal pairings, especially with desserts or with biscuits, with chocolate. But you can also use it for flambe, so a different way of cooking. Some important chefs, they are also trying to make some food, like the risotto goes very well with some grappas. So it started to be a more versatile distillate. Cocktails as well, no? Cocktails are there's a lot of interest by bartenders to create cocktails with grappa. There's one that's called Vento, which is similar to sour, kind of grappa sour, that has been listed in 2020 in the list of the 100 cocktails of the IBA, the International Barman Association, which is a great result for grappa.
I would agree 100% with that statement. Already I'm sort of thinking about what flavors this one in my glass would work with. I think it would work so well with citrus-based cocktails, as you said. Anything that's going to bring out those lovely kind of stone fruit notes, I think would work really well. Even working with different sort of martini recipes.
Yeah.
This could be perfect. Either as like a main spirit or as a modifier as well, just to draw out flavors in a gin martini, for example. I think it would be fantastic. But I digress. Going back to the Oxford Wine Company, we have several different grappas on the shelves, and several of them are from different parts of Italy. Would you say that there is a particular heartland or a particular region that grappa is most heavily associated with, or is this something that can be found all over Italy?
No, for sure, grappa is distillate from the north. So the main regions that are involved in the production of grappa are Friuli, Veneto, and Trentino. These regions have a long tradition in distillation, and they are knowing how to produce grappa. This is also due to the fact that you need to have wineries based near the distillery. So, as we are using the grapes, we need to have wine near our distillery. Plus, grappa was considered, as I said at the beginning of last century, a fuel for to make energy. To give to in the cold days, you need to give energy to your body to work in especially in the country as Italy was 90% countryside and farmers. They used to drink this strong spirit to give to be more energetic, and that's why it was based mainly in the north, where we have cold regions. In the south, it was too hot to create a real tradition on grappa. So this is the story will give you also the history will give you the right location, no? And all the soldiers also during the Second World War. So the production of grappa was really connected with the history of our country. And during the First World War and the Second World War, grappa was used also to give to the soldiers to encourage them to fight, especially to the young ones that were less ready, to go to fight. So that was a real a fuel for for the body, for the mind, which is of course now different, but this is the heritage of this spirit.
It's so funny how this story comes up time and time again. We have a term in English, Dutch courage, which actually comes from the Hundred Years' War, where the British soldiers would notice the Dutch soldiers drinking a little bit of gin before they went into battle. And they noticed it gave them just a little bit more courage to fight. You hear this story time and time again.
Yeah, the same. No, the same.
We've seen so many different grapes already today being used to produce grappa. Do you, in your opinion, feel there are particular grapes that really kind of lend themselves to this type of spirit?
Well, the most aromatic grapes, like the Traminer, the Moscato, are better for the distillation and to give the complexity and the aromatic profile to the grappa. Some of them are better because they are more intense, and those are the ones that are also much more easy to recognize when you taste the grappa. No, it's not so easy to recognize the single variety that you're using. But when we talk about aromatic grapes, this is much more easy. Red grapes, white grapes, they have their own specific organoleptic profile. All of them give a different characteristic to the grappa. So some of them are more fruity, some of them are more floral. As you said before, you can find red berries or dried fruit flavors, honey. It's really complex, but they are all given a specific bouquet to the final distillate. So we are using all the different grapes, all the different varieties that are produced here in Friuli.
Fantastic.
We also are producing some of the local grapes, which are more difficult to understand outside the borders of Italy, but that in Italy are quite successful. That we use from really local production, and they have small production like Ramandolo, Piccolit, which are like clusters of small production of grapes. And these are, for me, some of the most interesting, because you also keep alive a local tradition, not only a production of grapes and not only a production of distillate, but you keep alive a tradition.
That's really interesting. Those two varieties that you mentioned, Romandolo and Piccoli, am I right in thinking they're traditionally used as sweeter wines as well?
Yes, so, these two varieties, which are the sweet wines that are produced here in Friuli, those are the only ones that we use.
It's definitely something that I've not considered when sort of studying the wines as well. It must be really interesting to kind of see how all of these different varieties impact the final flavor. And so flavor creation is something that I'm extremely interested in, and it sounds a lot like the raw material in this spirit, grappa, is probably the most important factor in terms of that flavor creation. But I'd like to think about other factors as well. When I speak to distillers all around the world, it's really interesting to kind of see where a lot of this flavor comes from. And something that comes up time and time again is fermentation. At Tosolini, are you using your fermentation to generate a lot of flavor as well, or is it quite a quick fermentation?
No, it's a quick fermentation. It's a natural quick fermentation. The grapes have their own yeast, and the fermentation started immediately, and it's going to be very, very quick. The point is that we need to distill really immediately after the fermentation started, because when we speak about grapes, then you have unwanted fermentation that can start if you not taking the right time to distill.
I see. So it's about not corrupting the flavors from those grapes.
Absolutely, yes. Because the distillation is it's a concentration. So you have to concentrate only the good flavors and only the good aromas. And if you are too late with the fermentation, and you have fermentation that will bring the skins into an acetic fermentation, then you will concentrate those flavors, and those are evidence that grappa it's not good.
So it's all about highlighting the characteristics that are coming from the grapes, and the way that that's done is by being quite quick, making sure your fermentation is efficient, and making sure that your
Yeah,
distillation is really closely monitored so that you can extract the exact flavors that you're looking for. And so in
exactly.
terms of that flavor generation, it's rather than through the production process creating flavor as you go, it's more about actually capturing as many of those intricate flavors from the grapes themselves as possible.
It's exactly true.
That's really interesting and really cool. And, it makes sense when you taste the final product, because going back to what I said earlier, it really is, you can taste the stems, you can taste the pips, you can taste the skins, and of course you can taste the juice. So
Grappa is, has a distinctive flavor that is this herbal, no, flavor that you can smell. You can close your eyes and smell it in the glass, and you will find out that this is a grappa, because this is a very distinctive characteristic of grappa. This herbal aftertaste, this herbal that comes from the skins, the stem, as you said. And this is the most difficult part when we talk about cocktails, for example, because this strong herbal aftertaste comes out all the time during the cocktail making. You have to find the right combination and to match with the other ingredients to enhance this characteristic, not to cover it. It's not easy, but there are a lot of bartenders now that are moving into this find the right cocktail for grappa thing.
I mean, I need to leave it to the bartenders of today. I mean, I used to bartend quite a lot, and I used to think I was pretty good, but some of the things that these bartenders are coming out with these days, they're just so creative and so interesting and so flavoursome. It really is putting anything that I did in my younger years to absolute shame. So yeah, shout out to all of the bartenders working out there at the moment. You guys rock. You must get a lot of variation with grappa.
Well, actually, we do. We have, like I showed you before, we have this reserva. This is a grappa barrique age, for example, in chestnut barrels, and we are using a lot of different kind of woods. We are using cherry wood. We're using chestnut. We are using oak, of course. We are using ash. We are using plum. We are using different kind of woods because these woods are giving the different aroma to the grappa. So there, some of them are more spicy, some of them are more like honey taste, vanilla compounds. Some of them are more similar to the fruit. Some distillates match very well with the cherry, with the chestnut, like the one I showed you before. So we are creating some small productions because we are talking about small productions.
Hello, me again. It was at this point in the podcast where my dog started going crazy and we had to cut the recording short for a couple of minutes at least. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to do one of those things where we do a little bit of shameless promotion in the middle of a podcast. We have a brand new autumn lineup of tastings here at the Oxford Wine Company, which we would love for you to join us for. Starting off next week, we have a Let's Go Bordeaux tasting with some delicious high-end Bordeaux wines to taste. Following that up, we have a wonderful tasting next Friday where we'll be sampling some tequila and mezcal, followed shortly by a tasting with Brookladdy Distillery. Moving into October and into November, there's a whole variety of things kicking off, from high-end Jamaican rum tastings to English whiskey tastings and everything in between. And then later on in November, we'll be having our annual Oxford Wine Fair at the Town Hall. If you'd like to buy tickets to any of these events, just head to our website, oxfordwine.co.uk, and click on the events page. We'd love to see you there. Many thanks. Now, let's get back to the podcast. Okay, we're back. And Lisa, you have something you want to show us, right?
Yes, we were talking about all the different agings, the different woods that we are using. And I would say that we are specialists on small productions, and that the production of grappa is around, the industrial production of grappa is around 40 million bottles. And we are only making 300,000. So we are really specialists, and we are really thinking that small productions will give a better product. Plus, we are doing a lot of different agings, and one of those, this is the grappa, smoked grappa aged in barrels that are previously toasted using not only wood but using also tobacco leaves. So this will give the grappa a very fresh and incredibly enveloping tobacco smell. It's really unique, and we are the only distillery in Italy doing this. It's something that is really appreciated also for those palates which are used to drink whiskey and not grappa. This still remains grappa, so you have this characteristic taste of grappa, but reminds a little bit of a whiskey. It's really, really interesting to educate people and to introduce people that are not so keen to grappa to the world of grappa.
That's really fascinating, and it seems really interesting to me, this concept of maturation, because it's another way of creating flavor. And if you can use these techniques and if you can apply them to your different base materials, I suppose in the end you can create something, a spirit that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
And so, just wrapping up, if any of our listeners are keen to try some different grappa expressions, of course they need to try Beppe Tosolini straight away.
Yes, and we have a lot of expressions, so you can find really all you need is Tosolini. No, I'm joking. You can really find a lot of different expressions in our production. A lot.
Do you have some friends in the industry as well that you would like to shout out, that
to
people
recommend?
should try as well? Yeah.
Yeah, we are all friends. I mean, the small artisanal distilleries are just a few, so we all know each other. And of course, I would recommend some of my favorites are Poli, for example, my friends from Nardini, and of course Nonino. It can be also tasted to compare and to learn more. A lot, some more, but these are for me the most representative in the artisanal sector.
Finally, are there any resources that you could recommend for somebody who wants to learn a little bit more about the category?
Visit Italy and come to the distilleries, and this is the best resource that you can find. There are so many on internet, for sure. All the distilleries have a different story, and on the websites. Of course, using internet today, you can really know much better about the production of grappa. And also we have an association, which is also Distill, which is the Association of Grappa Distillers, which is interesting to follow and to see what they're writing on their website. If you come to Italy, there's a museum in Bassano del Grappa, which is very nice to visit. That includes all the different distillates from all the producers and all the different stills used in the history for the production of grappa. So yes, and then visit the distilleries, as I said before. That's the best way, because you can really. We're not telling all the secrets in our website, so it's much better to come and visit directly.
If anyone listening out there would like to come and visit you at the distillery, what's the easiest way? Would we fly into Venice?
Yes, or Trieste. There are two different, or even close to Ljubljana, which is just at the same distance from Venice. We are at the same distance from Venice and Ljubljana, so they're both good places to land. And
Fantastic.
then make a tour of the wineries in the area and enjoy the food, which is special, and come to visit the distillery. You can
Absolutely.
also follow us on Instagram, on Facebook. We're posting the new releases, the events, cocktails, pairings, behind the scene at the distillery. There's a lot to see also on our social media. And then you can subscribe to our newsletter and be updated. Everything happens here.
Do all of it. It's Tosolini, Tosolini.
Lini, yes.
As it sounds. Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. And I feel like I learned a lot more about grappa as well. So that's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. And I'm waiting for you here. You will learn much, much, much more.
I can't wait. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi.
Ciao.